Yeah, I was in ELL normally you do 3 years.
Right.
Middle school. I ended up doing 4 years. And I to this day, I'm still feeling very thankful to a teacher, Patrick O'Neill, who on my 8th grade year, I was getting ready to graduate, move on with my friends. And even though my English skills weren't, I wouldn't feel comfortable with them, just being able to write, read, or even speak English, back then. And he thought up the idea of, why don't you repeat, a year of 8th grade, you're still, within the age range.
Right.
And do another year 8th grade, but this time do it mainstream classes, just non-ELL classes. And I looked at him, I was like, you must be crazy. I want to graduate, I want to move on with my friends. Right. And I thought about it, and my parents, my mom back then, thought about it. It's like, I think we'll be better off. And till this day, I truly am thankful because I was able to accept a new challenge. And that is being put in a class where I wasn't going to receive as much help as I was.
Right.
And one of the most memorable things that I do recall from that experience is I was in a class, science class, and that was about first month into school. And the teacher gave us an assignment, and here you go, you do it, read it and stuff. And I couldn't read the assignment because my reading comprehension wasn't up to, their expectations. And the teacher in front of everybody else says, well, Jim, if you're not able to read the assignments, maybe you should be going back to ELL.
Wow.
And in front of the whole class. I mean, you can't really tell when I'm blushing, but I was red, and I felt embarrassed. And, and many people will take that and, and they were like, I'm leaving. Right. I'm never coming back. And, I really felt hurt at that point, but I took that as a challenge, and I'd never forgotten that.
How did you feel at that moment?
Like, I just wanted to fly away. I sank in my seat. My feet were numb, to be honest, because I'd never been called out, like that. 14 years old, 13 years old, and I still remember him saying that. And but like I said, I took it as a challenge more than not, and I believe I ended up passing this class with the B plus.
Wow. That's true redemption right there, man.
Yeah. And I go back once in a while, and I believe he's still teaching now, and he sees me now, and I don't think he remembers.
Right.
What he said.
Right. It was probably such a fast pace where he didn't even get what that meant.
Correct.
He wasn't in tune and how that was going to impact you.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because I actually had a similar experience, but it was at my church. Yeah. I was in 6th grade EL, and they were planning this Mother's Day thing. Yeah. And part of that, the youth group kids had to read different stuff for a video they were making. And I started to feel very anxious. I was like, man, how am I going to do this? We're reading out loud. They have a prompt. And when it was my turn, I wasn't flowing as quickly as everybody else. Mind you, at that point, I've only been in the States for 2 years.
Yeah.
So then the guy who was facilitating the video, he goes, come on, Dale, what are you can't read or something? Come on, let's go, Dale, read it off, come on.
Oh, boy.
And it was like a knife in my heart, bro. I just left. That night, I just left.
Yeah.
I felt so embarrassed because my church was predominantly people that have been here for a long time. So my family was the only immigrant family. So when that happened, oh man, that crushed me. I just left, and I felt so embarrassed. I was like, man, I couldn't even read this. They called me out. But it's part of the journey, right? You're assimilating to a new community, a new environment. Academically, in terms of reading and writing, it takes time, especially if English wasn't the language that you were brought up in. So experiences like that, man, I can only imagine. But for you, you took that as a way of saying, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to get better. But the fact that you stayed on the class, man, I give you kudos for that. Yeah. So I want to fast forward a little bit. So we end up, going in high school and being involved in high school. And then we all had different pathways that we moved on with. I'm curious to know a little bit more about what career pathways that you guys took and why was that? So Chris, I want to start with you because I know that, you committed your time to serve our country. So first of all, I want to say thank you so much for doing that, man.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What made you pursue that path?
Man, so for me, ever since I was young, ever since I could remember, probably since like the 6th grade, I would always see those commercials, those Marine commercials, and you would see them, with their rifles and everything, and their very pristine uniforms, and to me that was something that really stood out to me. I'm always the type of person that wants to help other people, and I know you guys could attest to that. So to me, that was a way of helping people, and we went through 9/11 and everything. I can remember that as clear as day, and I ended up joining, and of course a lot of the people that joined right after high school, we were still in Iraq, moving into Afghanistan also. What did we want to do? We wanted to go overseas and fight the war, serve our country, and for me, now looking back on it, I don't regret any part of it. I don't.
And how long did you serve for?
6 years. I served 6 years. Out of those 6 years, I applied to go to a deployment at least 3 times. Got denied every single time, and the last time that I was denied, one of my best friends went in instead of me. And when he came back, he was